This week on the Canadian Tech Podcast, we talk about the Toronto Star getting fined $65,000, Facebook vient à Montréal, Equifax was breached, and we cover Apple's latest product announcement. That's all next and more on the Canadian Tech Podcast. The Canadian Tech Podcast is sponsored by Olio Digital Labs. Olio are the planners, designers, and developers of the apps used by some of Canada's biggest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you at oliodigitallabs.com. And we're also sponsored by CodeShip, continuous integration and delivery software that lets you ship your apps with confidence. Both CodeShip Basic and CodeShip Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users. Visit codeship.com today to find out which CodeShip product is right for you.
Welcome to the Canadian Tech Podcast, episode 132 for Monday, September 18th, 2017. Sponsored by Olio Digital Labs and CodeShip. My name is Stuart Clark.
And my name is Derek Silva.
Well, Derek, it sounds like you and Jameson had a great time last week at Camp Walden.
I would agree, yes. We did have a very good time.
Excellent. While you were gone, we actually had a lot of big tech stories, so we're playing a little bit of catch-up this week. And then we're also recording this on a Monday night because both of us got sick.
Yeah. Yesterday was not the easiest day. I could have done it, but it was not going to be easy.
No, I couldn't.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's totally fine. We all have those days. So, but we'll talk more later about how we're going to make that a little bit easier on ourselves
Perfect.
As well.
Okay, let's move right on to the quick hits.
Cool. So the Toronto Star was a bad boy or girl recently. They violated the CRTC's unsolicited telecommunications rules, also known as the Do Not Call list. On September 18th, the CRTC fined the Toronto Star $65,000 for failing to adhere to the Do Not Call list, aka the rules for not calling people who don't want your calls. Between March 18th, 2015 and May 10th, 2016, a telemarketing operation on behalf of the Star failed to appropriately conform to the national Do Not Call list rules. And apparently the Star also failed to make all reasonable efforts to ensure that its telemarketer did not initiate these telecommunications to consumers who are or should have been on its Do Not Call list. All that to say, they didn't follow the rules, and so now they're being fined $65,000 to the Receiver General of Canada, and their Metroland Media subsidiary was also fined $240,000 back in April 2015 for the same reason. So this seems to be a history of doing these things. Hopefully they smarten up from here on out.
Yeah, and I think in this case it sounds like they had also outsourced the particular thing at that point.
Probably,
but again, they're responsible for that.
But they're ultimately responsible. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Jerry Pournelle, famed ? Sci-fi writer. Certainly to some people, not necessarily to me. I know who he is.
To older geeks,
yes,
his earlier work
was
better. Yes, yes, exactly.
He passed away a little over a week ago at the age of 84. He wrote books like Janissaries, The Mercenary, and certainly many others. Apparently, he's the first author to write a novel entirely on a computer. Mm-hmm. And, he a couple other things. He served during the Korean War, or in the Korean War. He is also well known for his column called Chaos Manor. And, that's right. And also wrote a bunch of books with Ringworld author Larry Niven.
Right.
And no doubt he will be sorely missed. If you didn't hear, there is, depending on the device you're using, a Bluetooth vulnerability that can result in your phone or computer being hacked in about 10 seconds. A security company called Armis found a collection of 8 exploits. Altogether, they gave the name to these exploits Blueborn. and this Blueborn would allow an attacker access to your phone without touching it. The only thing that had to be happening was Bluetooth being turned on. So thankfully, they actually found out about this exploit several months ago. They notified all the major vendors such as Apple, Google, Microsoft, Samsung, and a host of others. Google has already patched Android to resolve this issue. Microsoft also patched Windows back in July. Apple, iOS 9 and older devices are still susceptible, and I don't think are going to be patched. iOS 10 and 11 already patched previously. Samsung, for some reason, for like their Tizen devices or their TVs that may or may not have Bluetooth built in, were contacted by Armis 3 times, I believe, never responded. So that's a bad sign.
Just shake your head at that.
Yeah, right? So
yeah.
So if you have an Android device and there is a security update waiting for you, please use it. Microsoft or Windows, please patch those. If you haven't since July, Apple, you should be fine at this point unless you have a terribly old device. And otherwise, just update that firmware and make sure that that you cannot be taken advantage of via Blueborn.
Right. Yeah, and this is so important now. There's so many different ways they can gain access to your device. Patch.
Mm-hmm. So, one of the organizations that sprang up after Elon Musk dropped his Hyperloop idea was a company called Hyperloop One. They're based in LA. They've been holding the One Global Challenge to identify the top Hyperloop routes in the world. And amazingly, one that runs from Toronto to Ottawa and then Montreal, which has been proposed by the Canadian part of AECOM, very big engineering construction company, was part of the top 10 finalists. The proposal says a trip from Toronto to Ottawa would take 27 minutes, and then the rest of the trip from Ottawa to Montreal would only take another 12. That's amazing. And so now we're going to see now Hyperloop is now spending more time with those 10 teams and those 10 routes to figure out, to validate and analyze the proposals, get ridership forecasts, do preliminary technical analysis and that sort of thing. So fingers crossed we could at least get the first part of a highly used Hyperloop route built in Canada in the next, 10 years, 20 years. And then all the way down to Windsor, please.
Well, exactly. And, I hope if, as this moves forward, there'll be consultation with the provincial government. Thank you, with the provincial government of the day.
Yeah, and at this point, who knows who that's going to be?
Who knows, exactly.
Who knows? It's going to be the Greens. Anyway.
That's why I said it in that very polite, non-specific way.
GPO. Anyway.
All right.
Consider, though, that if you get it down to Windsor, you could connect to Detroit right over the river.
Exactly.
And then, anywhere across the states from there.
Yep.
With a new president, hopefully, by the time. Anyway, Facebook is opening an AI lab in Montreal. The co-director of McGill University's Reasoning and Learning Lab and incoming president of the International Machine Learning Society will lead the lab. Joël Pinault. Pascal Vincent, an associate professor at University of Montreal, is also going to join the lab. According to Yann LeCun, Facebook's chief AI scientist, quote, Montreal already has an existing fantastic academic AI community, an exciting ecosystem of startups, and promising government policies to encourage AI research, end quote. So this comes after, of course, Montreal bought Maluba in Montreal a little while ago. Microsoft's venture arm also helped fund Element AI a little while ago. And of course, with all the news around Toronto's AI lab at U of T, and I think Google has lots of AI people here, things are really taken off, or have already taken off and continue to do well for AI research and jobs in Kazakhstan. Audible has launched a dedicated Canadian audiobook marketplace. Their Audible.ca now features short and long form content, quote, specifically curated by and for Canadians, end quote, according to Audible. So they are developing technology that they've developed a technology that recently that allowed them to be a lot more productive and efficient around multi-language, according to Chris Cooper, who works at Audible. And so now if you go to audible.ca, you get a drop down, you can hit French, and of course now you not only get the audible.ca in French, you'll actually get more French content coming at you. And so French Canadian users are going to be able to access a French version of Audible with French language texts as well as French language writers, tout en français. And Audible is also working with Canadian writers, editors, and publishers to continuously update Audible.ca with more original Canadian content. Audible/Amazon, we salute you.
Yes.
And that's it for the quick hits.
Okay, and let's go on to a wonderful word from a wonderful...
Olio Digital Labs is one of Canada's most accomplished small market agencies, delivering web apps and mobile apps to businesses across Canada. In an era of persisting connectivity and pervasive mobile devices, it has become more important than ever before for businesses to be everywhere their employees and customers are. That's why Olio provides its clients with the peace of mind only a highly skilled and experienced team can provide. A team that is big enough to support your needs, but flexible enough to work to your constraints. With a client list spanning from the Middlesex London Health Unit and Ellison Travel and Tours, all the way up to College Pro and the Home Depot, the team at Olio has proven itself to be the planners, designers, and builders of the web and mobile apps used by some of Canada's largest brands. Find out what Olio can do for you by calling 226-785-0420 or visit oliodigital-labs.com to learn more. That's Olio Digital Labs, code that powers every day.
And we'd like to thank Olio Digital Labs for continuing to support the Canadian Tech Podcasts.
That's great. Okay, let's move on to our stories. I'm going to let you roll with this one. This one's all yours. Sorry. We're going to do our review of your road trips first. Sorry.
Well, that's fine. That's what I was going to do.
Okay.
I know when you were actually talking about.
Yeah, sorry.
But I was going to go
ahead.
into what you actually wanted instead. So Jameson and I went to Camp Walden, which is a little bit northeast of Bancroft, which is northeast of Peterborough, which is northeast of Toronto. So just keep going northeast on the map, and you'll find it evenally. Or just type in Camp Walden.
On a Friday afternoon?
Well, I went on a Friday afternoon. Jameson didn't show up until very late. Well, not very late, but late Friday night because of family stuff. Kids. Kids. Anyway, okay, so I picked up a guy from Victoria in Toronto because there was a Slack community and people were like, "Hey, I need a ride," and "Hey, I'm offering a ride," and I was like, "Oh, I can pick somebody up on the way. Why not?" And so I picked up a guy named Duncan McRae from he's a co-founder of a company called Watershed Partners. They're like business consultants to help you figure out like why your product is failing, or how to change your business model so you don't fall behind your competition and that sort of thing, which is kind of cool. And so we had a really nice chat up on the way. He's only a year younger than me, and so we had a lot in common, a lot of similar references and that sort of thing, like cultural references. And we get there and we parked my car, which I will talk more about later. And
yes.
Things are hopping. Most people are already there. Not everybody though. And a couple of sessions that were scheduled for Friday because of transportation issues by various panelists and speakers, they were delayed until Saturday. They all happened, but a few of them were delayed. So Friday was really just like get settled into your cabin, unpack, look through your swag bag if you were so inclined. I didn't look at it much until Sunday. Mm-hmm. And and just kind of get a lay of the land. The layout was super confusing of the camp, just to get started, because you're like, where am I on this map? And then, which way is north? And your phone doesn't work because there's no cell signal, basically at all.
Old school.
Which was actually in the end terrific. And that was the whole point of Fireside and why it was at Camp Walden. Disconnect to connect, I think was what one person was saying. So it was a little weird at first to be like, oh yeah, I'm not calling anybody to tell them I'm here safe or anything like that. There was a building with like a dedicated satellite connection and Wi-Fi, so you could hook up if you really needed to, which I did a couple times just to respond to some Clever Host emails and stuff like that. But thankfully, nothing melted down on the weekend, which was terrific. And so Friday was just mostly hanging out, drinking, played some icebreaker games where it was actually kind of cool, where everybody had a question that they actually had to ask somebody else, and the questions were actually quite good. One I had was, what's the biggest realization you've ever had about yourself? And other people had ones about, dream jobs or stuff like that. I only ended up talking to 2 or 3 people, one of them being legendary Canadian Georgia Dow, who I ran into, and I asked my question and she asked hers. Oh, another question I had in my hand that I asked her was, what was something that was ruined for you? Which, of course, my answer was Facebook at some point in the past. And she's like, oh, yeah, social media in general for me. I'm like, yeah, I hear ya. But she's still on Twitter and loves it. And Friday was party, open bar, lots of fun, lots of dancing, big bonfires all over the place.
Yep.
And Saturday was focused on primarily 3 streams. Well, so I finally got to bed about 2:15. Ran into Jameson around 9-something when he got there, which was good. And we were in the same cabin, so we got make sure to get him situated. And I finally got to bed around 2:15. And got up at around 7:15, 7:30 when the music started playing over the loudspeaker.
Oh boy!
All throughout the camp. Oh yeah, it was there's no. We have a schedule today. There's no mercy. Get up, get a coffee, get your breakfast in the dining hall with the other 400 people or so. And just sit with people, just sit and talk, and then we'll go, start our days. So there was 3 main things happening Saturday. Camp Marijuana Way, which is all about cannabis legalization. Early stage growth funding, which is exactly what it sounds like. Debentures, convertibles, pitching, slide decks, etc. And then what Jameson and I mostly focus on, which is a mini camp called CoinConf. And that was all about blockchain and cryptocurrencies. And if you heard last week's episode, you got a pretty good dive into cryptocurrencies, or blockchain rather, and potential real world use cases there, which was really, really cool. Ethan was a great speaker. Christian Lassonde, who was a co-founder of Ethereum, was there. More of the Debbie Downer side of cryptocurrencies, just because there's so many ICOs, initial coin offerings, and a lot of them are almost certainly scams, and trying to figure out which one's which. Oh, Friday night, Robert Scoble. I gotta say, pretty much everything he said about what Apple was going to do on Tuesday was true.
Okay.
About all these companies that Apple's bought and how they're working the tech into the iPhone and the iPad eventually, and what you'd be able to do and that sort of thing. With the tech, with the cameras, with the depth sensing, it pretty much all came true on Tuesday, which we'll talk about soon. So he was terrific. Jeff Pulver, who is the man who convinced the U.S. FCC, Federal Communications Commission, to allow voice over IP to be a thing, was speaking on Friday. That was amazing. He was talking about chatbots, AI. Andrew what's his last name? Andrew Warner from Mixergy,
Right.
another very popular podcast, and a bunch of different companies. He was there talking about chatbots on Friday and how you should try to use one, like try to start one for your business and all that. That was a lot of Friday evening. Saturday, like good food, good times, good people. Sunday morning was Saturday afternoon was like they did like an unconference. So some of the things that got pushed from Friday to Saturday were part of the unconference. Mostly I went kayaking Friday afternoon, and Jameson and I eventually went canoeing, so that was nice. And the water was super clean, really nice views, nice and calm. And I went to bed early on Friday, which qualifies as midnight, or on Saturday,
Right.
sorry, and got up Sunday morning. Again, Bob Marley blasting over the loudspeakers around 8 a.m. And kind of said bye to everybody. Got some contact information still in the Slack community. It's pretty quiet these days, but it's still there. And I really hope we can go back next year. So, Stephen, Daniel, if you're listening, Jameson and I would very much like to come back next year, and well worth the trip. So, unfortunately, the only bad part was that on Sunday night, on my way home, I killed my car.
Oh dear.
Long story short, regardless of the efforts I made to try and just get home in one piece, the alternator belt broke, and that was driving the water pump. And so because the water pump wasn't going, the engine coolant wasn't going anywhere or through the engine. Yep. And so that overheated, and the engine overheated, which caused internal damage in the engine, aka a crack. So instead of spending $3,000 or $4,000 getting a used engine and having a mechanic blow their brains out trying to replace it, we bought a new car.
Right.
Which we pick up tomorrow. So that's going to be fun.
Excellent.
So that was Fireside in a nutshell. If you didn't know, you should go. It's not cheap. It was $1,500, but
and we really thank them for allowing us.
Absolutely, yes. Lots of hugs and thank yous were provided to the organizers and some of the speakers, and it was good. It's good times, and I can finally speak normally again. So that's good.
There you go. That's awesome. Okay, and you're going to speak a little while longer because this next one's all yours. It's like the sound of that's my head hitting my desk.
The NFL did this last year, so this is really not that surprising. So the CFL and Twitter have gotten together recently to do some Twitter-only hashtags for all the CFL teams. Some examples: Argos Football, hashtag Argos Football, hashtag Our Nation, hashtag, let's do one from out west, Rider Pride. All will reveal different emoji, Twitter only emoji for your use of your hashtag. There are 10. I don't know what the ninth one is. Is it just for the CFL?
Must be for the logo for the league.
Grey Cup.
Grey Cup.
One for the Grey Cup, yeah. So, so if you are a CFL fan and you like to tweet, then these are for you.
Okay.
What do you think, Stuart?
Oh, sorry. Was that an audio pitch? I don't know. I'm just, I realize people do it. I don't follow.
You know what? I'll ask you my question after the next story. That's fine.
Exactly. Okay,
your turn.
One of the big stories that broke when you and Jameson were away in the woods with, other people. Let's not start something here. Sorry, Jameson. Equifax, one of the big three data credit reporting bureaus. One of the few places that has things like social insurance numbers, your driver's license, a lot of really critical things, and they offer services to prevent identity theft. They got hacked big time, absolute big time. They're estimating at least 143 million Americans, 80,000 from the UK. We're still waiting to hear the full number of Canadians affected by this, but things taken into I know. Things like social insurance numbers, driver's licenses numbers, name, rank, serial number, you name it. They probably have it now.
Yeah.
So the problem with this, though, is this wasn't revealed. This was kept under wraps for several months. This was a patch for some Cisco gear that should have been, everyone else seemed to patch it. Oh, I think it was Cisco.
No, Apache Struts.
Oh, it was Apache Struts. My
Apache
apologies.
Struts application which is used to make to write an API for your software.
So anyway, but they failed to patch it. Even everyone else was saying you got to patch this, and they didn't, as it's all too common. We seem to hear here. And so it allowed some hackers to get in for quite a while and slurp out all this stuff. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing that happened is in the time that Equifax found the issue, patched it, and then decided to release the information, 3 top executives decided to unload some stock. How curious. How curious is that, Derek? Now, apparently, of course, the first thing the company says, they didn't know, but if you're the CEO and people in those positions, I think
if they didn't know,
there's a bigger problem.
Yeah.
So there's investigations being opened there. Attorney generals are, there is more files being created by attorney generals, more lawsuits starting, and the lawyers are just having a field day, I'm sure.
That's fine. They can have it.
Oh yeah, they can have it, but it's an absolute nightmare. Already a couple of heads have already rolled. There's, strangely enough, the CIO and the chief CSIO have both retired, quote unquote.
How convenient.
Imagine how convenient. Researchers at Cisco found that flaw. So it wasn't Cisco's gear. My apologies.
Oh, okay. Yes.
That's what I was getting.
So Cisco Talos probably their security division.
They discovered it back in March 8th.
Yeah,
that's what it was. And Equifax, it just keeps falling on themselves, trying to, you want a perfect example of how not to deal with a crisis, just go back to some of this. So there's a lot going on here. We still don't know, as I said, Canadians still don't know the extent. There was some news late last week that CAA here, Canadian Automobile Association, offered a program with Equifax to help protect your credit from identity thefts.
No doubt.
And those estimated 10,000 people, members of CAA that signed up, they're on the list. It's pretty bad. So we're going to be following this as this goes on, but I just want to touch on a couple of things. If this doesn't make people fundamentally and companies fundamentally completely think differently about security, and I liken it to other examples, things like mental health, how it used to be a taboo subject, now it's not. Equal rights, same-sex marriage, like companies have to finally wise up and realize you got to spend money on this. No ifs, no ands, no buts, because, there's going to be, you look at the stock price, so your investors aren't going to be happy. This is going to be a huge hit in the end, an absolute huge hit. And I hope the governments, all the governments that this is going to affect, they just slap them down silly, because this is enough's enough. We really need to get a handle on this. The other thing is the whole idea of credit reporting. It's and this is my own personal opinion, it's an antiquated way of doing it. It's prone to error. So I hope this really starts making people thinking maybe we need to find a better way, because there's so much data held by so few, and we've now proven the nightmare scenarios come true. They've gotten hacked. Anyway, that's my rant. Over to you.
Oh man. Okay. Let's try and break down all the different failings here. So one, Apache Struts vulnerability identified in March. I think a patch was released in April, or maybe in March as well. The issue with the Apache Struts version update was that if you were multiple versions behind, it was incredibly onerous to apply all these updates. However, if you're only 1 or 2 versions behind, you still needed to rewrite a little bit of code. Okay, fine. Should that have taken 2 months, given how much money Equifax makes and how big their security team could or should be, or development team could or should be? No, I don't think it should have. And even then, if it is going to take you that long, man, take something down. Like take down whatever services are affected then, or find another way to secure them so that people can't get in. It's absolutely inexcusable because of how big Equifax is, because of how much data they have on pretty much every Canadian and American over the age of 18, and how much access that could restrict your life to in terms of any sort of credit being extended to you, whether you're getting a new cell phone and are getting like a discount on the phone itself, and it's being rolled into the plan instead. Like I'm only gonna pay $200 on this phone instead of $900 because I'm gonna go on a 2-year contract. A credit check gets done on you for that because Bell, Rogers, TELUS, Videotron, Freedom, etc. want to make sure you're actually going to pay off that phone. If you need any sort of credit cards, you want to get a car, timely topic, you want to do a line of credit so you can do some home renos, whatever, that all gets run through TransUnion, Equifax, Innova, and some other one, depending on the lender and who they have a deal with. And then to treat the security of the checking site for the Americans so poorly. It's a WordPress-based website. Don't even get me started on that. The web address looks like a scammy address. EquifaxSecurity2017.com. Really? Mm-hmm. It's not part of their main website. Depending on, there have been reports of some people, these are all Americans because we can't check our stuff online yet to see if we're affected. Not for free, at least. When you are running your check, like the last few digits of your social security number and your last name, I think is what they ask for, which in itself is problematic to have to provide to the company who just lost all that information to somebody. Some people were checking twice and getting 2 different responses.
Yeah.
Jeez, guys, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, let me give you another example. There was apparently, to a lot of security researchers, they've known for quite a while that Equifax hasn't been, behaving itself or keeping the security up to date. Apparently, up until a week ago, you could actually access a portal out of Equifax in Argentina with this very complicated username password combination: admin. Really, guys, that's
I heard about that too.
Yeah, it's So now the other thing is they're saying this is pointing to a state sponsor, so this could be similar to the Yahoo one. But again, guys, there's no excuse. Yeah, there's absolutely no excuse. So, yeah, the stock price is already down by a third.
It should be more.
I'm sure more will happen. I'm sure the CEO's head's going to roll. But there needs to. It should, and there shouldn't be a golden handshake.
Parachute.
But,
they're
golden
probably handshake sounds really dirty.
I know. Sorry. Well, there should be the parachute with the rock tied to it or something. I don't know, but
sure, I'm good with that.
But I'm sure they're in quite a while. Because this is worse than just a bank getting hacked. This is a level above the banks.
Because the bank goes to these guys to figure out if you have good credit or not. This is one step away from government losing, Canadian pension plan, suffering a data breach of 10 million Canadians. That's the only thing that could potentially be worse. And really, in some ways, that's not even as bad because that's retirement money. And your social insurance number would be in there. But ultimately, you can always look around and be like, ooh, you don't look like you. This is a very stupid and bad thing to do. This is not a good example, but like you can generally look around and be like, oh, so and so is a lawyer. They're probably paying more than enough into CPP to get full CPP, right? The $12,000 or $13,000 a year when they retire, and that person doesn't look like they necessarily make enough to do that. Okay, but so what, right? That's a retirement thing. That's how much you're going to get later.
Yeah. Well, and and there's some people saying, there's a thing here. Canada should move to adopt some regulations the EU is studying. The General Data Protection Regulation. Fines for those, they can run apparently up to 30 million Canadian or 4% of revenue, whichever is higher.
Yeah, so the nice thing about
the
nice thing about that is that if Equifax has European customers, they're going to have to adopt those measures.
Well,
that's
now,
the bar right now.
Right now, they've mentioned the UK. Now, the UK is not out of the EU yet.
No.
So if
Equifax operates in France, Spain, Germany, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Romania, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein, a whole bunch of other countries.
Oh yeah.
Anything within the EU. So not just companies that use the euro, or countries that use the euro. The actual European Union itself, which is like 29 different countries. If you have an EU citizen as a customer, you need to adopt these measures. And for the most part, it's not that tough. But if you would do a lot of custom software development, it's going to be a little bit of work.
Yeah. Okay, I think we've beaten that animal enough for a while.
Yeah.
We'll probably be back to this, I'm sure. This is not going away anytime soon. All right, let's move on to some slightly, happier. If you're an Apple fan, they had their live stream and announcements, and of course, Derek and I both provided live commentary in the way of tweets on the air or on the Twitter, and you can probably tell which ones were from Derek and which ones were from me. That's fine. That's part of the humor. Anyway, let's just kind of recap what happened. Apple basically introduced a couple of new iPhones, as predicted, the 8 and the 8 Plus. They also had a brand new, the one that was everyone's rumored, the iPhone 10 phone, as well as an Apple Watch Series 3, which is a little bit of improvement, and an Apple TV 4K, basically. And most everything else is more powerful and faster. So let's get into it. But let's just, the iPhone 8, there's some slight improvements there. Let's just get right to the one everyone seems to be talking about, whether they're going to afford to get it or not. But that's the iPhone 10. This is their new flagship phone. There's an all-new design. It's what they call a Super Retina display. Super Retina. Sorry, I had to do that once.
Which is almost certainly from Samsung.
Yeah, I know. Probably. Yeah, and there's a lot of stuff here, and I'll be the first to admit that other manufacturers have already done some of this stuff. So edge-to-edge 5.8 OLED panel, 2436 by 1125, has support for both HDI, including Dolby Vision.
That's a weird resolution. 2436 by 1125?
25, yep. And HDR10, yeah. There's no home button. Apple's instead using a new 3D scanning system called Face ID that using facial recognition. Who does that already? Samsung?
Samsung does, yeah.
Yeah. So I know there's a couple other on the Android side that I'm going to talk about some issues with that a little later on. Has a much more powerful processor, the A11. Support for wireless charging, and of course everyone loves the new animated emoji feature. So yes, you can now have smiling poop.
Talking poop with your words. Smiling
talking poop with your voice. And that'll sell 1 million right there just because of that.
Probably.
The cameras were also upgraded. They have dual megapixels, 12 megapixel rear cameras with dual optical image stabilization, and an improved front camera that supports this new portrait mode. A lot of upgrades on the camera side. On the battery side, they say it's going to last up to two hours longer than your standard iPhone 7. Interesting. They also mention now the pricing. Yeah, okay. You have the Canadian pricing there, or should I just give the US one?
So it starts, the 64 gigabyte storage model of the iPhone 10 starts at $1,319 Canadian.
Wow.
1149 converted right now because I don't have the.
No, it never
Canadian
works that way.
pricing
You know
for
that.
it. Well, no, I got pretty close. I got pretty
You
close.
got pretty close? Okay. It was like 1,500 or something.
My guess was $12.99 for the base model, and I was only off by $20. So converting 1149 for the 256 gigabyte, 1149 American, brings it to 1,410. So given the margins appear to be a little bit higher on the iPhone 10 than normal, I'm going to say that's 1439 probably Canadian.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been hearing 15 something, I believe.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. Why not, right? Pre-orders are going out on October 27th, so she'll start to ship on November 3rd. It'll be interesting to see with both the iPhone 8, 8 Plus, and the new iPhone 10, if they're going to have supply issues like before. I remember last year, if you recall, I think Apple kind of mixed up. They thought a lot more people were going to order the iPhone 7 than the 7 Plus, and they had some severe problems because I know my wife and I both ordered 7 Pluses, and we ended up waiting about 3 months to get ours. So, that'll be interesting. So anyway, the 8 and 8 Plus, it's pretty well the iPhone 7S, and they call it an all but name. They're adding a new glass black for wireless charging, a more powerful processor, improved cameras, a true tone display. People are kind of calling it a 7S, basically, instead of an 8. But yeah. And again, pricing's kind of similar, $699 US for a 64 gig, $799 US for the 8 Plus, and then, of course, all the way up to $256. Pre-orders for that actually started last Friday, and they will ship next week on the 22nd. So
this Friday.
That'll be this Friday. That'll be soon enough. The other thing here. All right. So that was the iPhone. Talk a bit about the new Apple Watch. It's a Series 3. Big addition there, LTE connectivity. You can finally have your Dick Tracy watch. So you don't have to keep it connected to your phone. Certain geeks of a certain age will understand that.
I understand that. So hang on. It's not just
good.
that it has LTE. It's that I will say, and I did say this in my tweets, the phone call quality of that woman, Deidre, on a stand-up paddleboard in the middle of some lake in Utah or something, actually sounded really good. And as somebody else pointed out in another Slack community I'm in, you could actually see or hear her voice going in and out as the watch came closer and further away to her mouth because she was paddling. So you could, that's actually, seemingly the way it's going to work, which was actually quite impressive.
Yep, and she didn't have her iPhone anywhere near her.
She did not.
So
there's an eSIM, eSIM card in the phone or in the watch.
Right. So basically, the new device is they're saying it's 2 sheets of paper thicker than the Series 2. It's faster than before. I know, but they got to say it. And there's a new chip that improves battery life. They say to expect up to 18 hours with the new model. They also announced a lot of stuff with the Watch Mobile, a lot of new health features and stuff like that, which make it very compelling. For that health thing. It's something that, if the price is a little bit better, I'd think about, or if I start working again. Don't forget, #Stu. It'll be out September 22nd. U.S. pricing $329 for the non-cellular version, $399 for the cellular equipped model.
So $1,000.
Yeah, billions. Also to do with the watch and the phone, Apple's now got a universal standard charger that you'll be able to put your iPhone, your new iPhone, your watch, and your wireless earbuds on. And what is it? Yeah. And what's the CHO? Is that the standard name?
No, Qi.
Qi. Sorry, I was close.
It's spelled QI. Oh, yeah, you were so close. It's spelled QI. It definitely seems to be the more popular of the two. The other one is called PMA, which is the other major, the one with also quite a bit of backing. But Samsung's been supporting Qi and PMA in their phones. The S6, the S7, probably the S8 eventually. The Note 8 is already out. Yeah, so the S8 and the Note 8 as well. So Qi is good. My new truck I'm getting tomorrow has Qi wireless charging built in.
There we go.
So yeah, I think they made the right call there. IKEA as well has been supporting Qi charging in their furniture with built-in wireless charging. Yeah.
I'm most surprised Apple took so long to get on the wireless charging bandwagon.
Well, they had to get rid of that headphone jack first.
Yeah, exactly. Important things. Also moving on, the iPhone has better resolution and HDR video. They're also compatible with HDR10 and Dolby Vision specifications. Dolby Vision.
What's wrong with THX? Why is it all Dolby all the time?
Because I can say Dolby Vision.
Sure, it's all because of you.
It's all because of me.
I'll blame you then.
We'd be able to play back 4K HDR content. They specifically called out Netflix and Amazon Prime, of course.
They did.
And, of course, the iTunes stores will be selling movies and TV shows.
One nice thing is that they strong-armed the movie studios into letting you upgrade your existing 1080p content to 4K for free. And 4K content is still going to cost $20 US to buy a movie instead of more, because that's what a 1080p version costs right now too. So have hope, Obi-Wan, that we'll see similar things here. It's probably $30 for a movie, but at least you're not paying more for the 4K version than you are for the 1080p one.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I also noticed during the keynote, and I haven't had time to go back, but they showed, they're working with a lot more channel partners and apps and that. And like I saw the CBC
Crave.
there and a few other Crave and
CBC, are going to work in the Apple TV
more and
TV
more reasons
app
to cut that cable.
Wow, but that really only means 2 reasons for Canada.
Yeah,
because those are the only 2 that work. CBC, I'm still waiting for my Roku app. Come on.
I know, and I know you had to get it in. That's why I gave you that opportunity. So overall, a lot of new announcements. Couple of things. Now, one of the things that's recently happened is with the new version of iTunes that came out. They're trying to reduce the bloat, and frankly, it is bloat on iTunes for PC and Mac. So they're trying to get the emphasis of being it back to an app for music. So it's no longer the place you directly access to get your iOS apps. So basically what they've done is you'll notice there now with 12.7 for both Windows and Mac OS, it no longer contains any options for syncing apps or ringtones to your various iPhone, iPad, or touch devices. And this used to be a real thing that used to drive me nuts because we've had Apple devices for years. And my main PC, that was the one I created the account on. So when I reinstall iTunes, as I've upgraded, it wants to re-download and make a copy of all these apps that we've ever had. And I mean all the ones.
Yeah.
We got 2 people in the household. So I did a tree size on it the other day. Almost 19 gig, actually.
Is that all?
Well, no, but that's just the apps. That's not the music, or that's just.
I know.
The apps.
I'm joking.
It's still, it's still a fair amount. But now that they're making it easy that you basically sync it via the device. Now you download a direct device, which most people were doing anyway. So I think that's.
The only issue is that if you do have an older device with an older version of iOS, that maybe you can't. You can't get to the App Store anymore because the version of iOS you're running is that old.
Yeah.
The managing it through the iTunes App Store or the iTunes app was the only way to actually manage your apps for that device anymore. So I know that there are some people who are not happy about the change, but of course they can just not upgrade iTunes.
Right,
or there are other ways to get that app updated on their device. But overall it's a good thing, but certainly there are going to be some edge cases where it's not so great for those folks.
Right. The other thing that came up, and this is a kind of an important topic, it isn't the first time it's come up because this isn't the first time we've started talking about Face ID or things like that. We had issues before when Apple and other places first introduced the ability to unlock your phone with a fingerprint. instead of typing in a passkey or something like that. One of the concerns is security. So in the past, if law enforcement wanted you to unlock your phone, in most cases you could say no, and you were protected.
Right.
But did that protection, and there was a lot of cases in that, did that protection include the right of an officer to push you to put your fingerprint on your phone? And we've basically seen, we're seeing a bunch of different things going back and forth, but basically, at least in the States, there's Fifth Amendment protections from that. But does that apply to facial? And there's a lot of debate going on, and it's already been concerned because, as you said, you said Samsung's been doing I call it Face ID, facial recognition, for a while. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to try and get our good friend of the podcast. We'll see if we can get Susan Toth on, at least for an interview, just to kind of look at the Canadian connection with this, just to see what options are for Canadians about this, because it's something to be important. Like, the facial recognition, hey, that's cool if it allows you to unlock it, but do you really want that all the time?
No.
Now there is supposed to be a way you can instantly, if you want to disable that temporarily, but again, we don't know the specifics for that yet.
Yeah,
so,
and what if you can't
Exactly.
What if you can't get to it before the cops, for right or wrong, for good or bad reasons, snatches the phone from your hand? So, I mean, same thing for me. I'm not comfortable using biometrics at this point. Mm-hmm. Again, you can go through my phone. You're really not going to find much, but I don't want you going through my phone without a warrant in the first place. So I'm not going to use a fingerprint. I'm not going to use any sort of facial recognition. I'm going to use something only I know until such time that I know that random people can't just try to unlock or force me to unlock my phone without my actual consent, or consent that's not given under duress. So I love Susan. I'm not sure she's the right person, though. We might have to try David Canton instead.
Yeah, we might try David Canton. But we'll definitely reach out to one of our specialists.
I know where he lives.
Interested. You know where he lives. Excellent.
Yeah, he lives like a block from me.
Oh, there we go.
He lives in my neighborhood. So either way, and he works about 2 blocks from me too.
Awesome.
So I don't know why we don't get one of our. But
we'll definitely get one of our local people and see if they'll either come on as a guest host or you know how busy lawyers are. And I know Susan's very busy these days, but we can get a short interview.
Well, especially since we're not going to pay them.
Play back. It's true. It's true. It's sad but true. We might have better success, with some people over others with that.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll get one. We'll get somebody on the phone.
We'll get someone on to do that. Okay, moving on to our last story of the day. This is another decision from our good friends at the CRTC. This one I had to read a few times. So basically, CRTC's made a decision that allows Bell to bill differently depending on type of internet access, but this is for the wholesale market.
Yeah. So okay. So at home, this is probably not going to affect you at all.
Right.
For dedicated service like DSL, because there's a dedicated line between your house and the central office, Bell is still going to use their flat rate model, which is $10 or $15 a month, something like that, where they bill Start, Distributel, Zayo, formerly known as Allstream, Acanic, etc., to provide service for you, but you're actually paying that third-party company. Right. That's fine. For non-dedicated service, which uses shared paths for transporting traffic between an interconnection point and the end user, so really this is more like Metro Ethernet lines, fiber optic, WANs, wide area networks, that sort of thing, where some of the traffic will cross over Bell's lines. Bell is going to be allowed to use a capacity-based billing model, so their customers, which are actually other telcos almost certainly, or ISPs, they'll pay a monthly capacity rate for the network capacity it expects to need to support traffic from its users, plus a separate per end user monthly access rate. So imagine you were renting a server from Primus, and that's the example I'll give because I know that they do this. For the connectivity to that server, what you actually will pay for is not just unmetered traffic or whatever. They want you to tell them most of the time, like 90 to 95% of the time, how much throughput do you think you need? 1 megabit per second to 10 megabits per second, what have you. Sustained, right?
Right.
And then they'll price it accordingly. So this is more like that, where you're paying for the connectivity, the amount of bandwidth you think you need the majority of the time. They'll let you burst, and of course you might go under in the middle of the night. But during working hours, how much do you think you need? Okay, I need 2 gigabits per second. Great, we're going to bill you on that, and then for every customer you actually hook up to the network. I think that's fair, personally. The CRTC obviously thought it was fair because Bell just said to do a only per user model for this more wholesale type access across our actual backbone network.
Right.
It would be incredibly onerous. And personally, yeah, I can see that. They're probably doing a lot of this traffic segregation based on access lists, VPNs, static routing, etc. To compile all that and apply billing accordingly, people actually might end up getting screwed over in the end in that way, because they probably have to price it so high to account for all these other potential variables. It's probably just not worth it. So instead, it should be a fairly low per customer rate. And then while you're buying capacity, you pay for that capacity. There's a fair market value attached to that capacity. And then we'll charge you maybe $100 a month or something like that. Probably less, $50 a month for each user you bring on. Okay. This one, I get it. So kudos to Bell for fighting for what they thought was right. Totally fine with the CRTC saying, "Yep, that's okay. We'll let you do it in this situation, as long as Bell doesn't abuse the privilege." I think everybody will be pretty happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So again, another decision from the CRTC. They're at least pretty consistent, and they're bringing stuff out, and which is good. You can't always say that about all government agencies, can you?
No,
not at all. Okay, so that's our stories for this week. Now let's hear about another awesome story.
CodeShip is a SaaS-delivered continuous integration and delivery solution that lets you ship your apps with confidence. You can choose between CodeShip Basic or CodeShip Pro. CodeShip Basic is a simple testing and deployment service with pre-installed CI dependencies that works right out of the box, making the average setup time less than 3 minutes. Or go give CodeShip Pro a try. CodeShip Pro is a fully customizable continuous integration and delivery service with native Docker support, and it is much easier to use than Jenkins or Travis. It makes it easy to test and deploy your microservices and push to any registry. It's also incredible if you want to deploy with Kubernetes. It comes with a convenient local CLI tool that allows you to run your builds locally. It helps encrypt your environment variables. It guarantees 100% parity between your development and production environments. And it julienne's fries.
Cool.
Both CodeShip Basic and CodeShip Pro come with a free plan that grants 100 builds per month, unlimited projects, and unlimited users. And open source projects are always welcome and welcome for free on CodeShip. So visit codeship.com today or check out codeship.com/features to find out which CodeShip product or service, if you prefer, is the best fit pour toi.
And we'd like to thank them for their. We'd like to thank CodeShip for their ongoing support of the Canadian Tech Podcast. All right, moving on towards the tail end of the show, stuff we like. I was reading some other books, trying to get back into the learning mode, this job search and stuff like that. I came across. This is what I've been wanting to read for a long time. And do not know why, and I turned my geek card in. I haven't read this up to now. I've heard bits and pieces about it and that. This is called The Phoenix Project. This is a novel about DevOps and how IT DevOps and people working together can help your business win. The big thing about it is that I see stuff in here that I have seen in companies small, including one or two I've worked at, and it just makes you want to smack your head. And we look at stuff that like what happened at Equifax and stuff like that. You just wonder what sort of environment. So it really covers the whole DevOps concept, how you get developers and operations working closer together so patches can get out quicker, like that. Again, I'm not so much of as a developer. Derek, you're more of a developer than I am, and I know you use some DevOps stuff. What can you say about this?
I can say DevOps are incredibly important. Basically, it's like the intersection between sysadmins, which is actually my role, and developers.
Right.
And so, those sorts of teams working much more closely together, or, ideally having people who can handle a little bit of both, so that when a security patch comes out and a little bit of your Apache Struts framework needs to be rewritten, it's not the end of the world and nobody's fighting over who's going to do this grunt work that nobody wants to do. There's actually a team who can probably handle a lot of that, or knows very well how to take the changes that the development teams made and bring it into the operations side and all that. So
exactly.
It's, I do some DevOps support at Olio. I'm good enough, or I know enough to help our project manager or the front end developer actually get a development environment up and running, get all of their dependencies installed or resolved, and that sort of thing. So I do some DevOps support at work, and certainly with Cleverhost, I do a lot of what you would consider DevOps. Chef, Puppet, that sort of thing, orchestration or orchestrating change management and all that definitely falls into this. So it's incredibly important, and it's certainly become way more important over the last 2 years than it used to be.
Mm-hmm. And this is why I say I when I posted my review in Goodreads and about this, I said, you don't have to be a developer to really understand this. I'm more of a sysadmin.
Yeah.
Far less of a developer than Derek is or anyone else, but I do follow the community. This is something that everyone in IT, from a small shop to a much bigger organization, should be reading and reviewing. So definitely check that out. You can get it at all the usual sources. What have you got this week, Derek?
I have a open source application called Jax, Jaxx, not the character from Mortal Kombat. This has 2 X's. It's very different.
All right.
He used to be my favorite character. I really like Jax.
Okay.
Anyway, Jax is like the cryptocurrency wallet to end all cryptocurrency wallets. It's open source, so there's no shenanigans happening in the background. B, it supports Litecoin, Zcash, Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Dash, Ethereum Classic, Dogecoin, almost all the major cryptocurrencies are here. So you don't need 5, 6, 7 different wallets. You don't need to worry about getting a wallet from an exchange like CoinSquare or CoinCash or Coin Payments or who knows where else. You can do it all here. And they even have integration into this, I don't remember what it's called, but there's an app or a service where you can actually exchange your cryptocurrencies really easily and simply. They have that built in here, so you can actually move from Bitcoin to Ether and Ether to Litecoin and etc. really easily and quickly between your wallets directly. There's a macOS app, Chrome extension, Windows app, Android app, Linux app, Firefox extension. It's all here. It is very cross-platform. And it's Canuck. It's Canadian. Christian Lasson from Impression Ventures and co-founder at the Ethereum Foundation. He's got a team at a company called Decentral that's developing this. So, and supporting it. So, cool. Yes. So I found out about, Shapeshift. That's the exchange platform. So Shapeshift is built right in. And, so I've moved all my empty cryptocurrency wallets over to Jax. Well, because I didn't want to put everything somewhere or like
I
buy a
understand.
bunch of cryptocurrency and then like, I got to move it again and blah, blah, blah. I wanted a nice cross-platform, multi-currency cryptocurrency wallet. And now I have one, and it's Canadian, so it's even better. So
Cool.
Jax, Jaxx, Jax.io. There's a link in the show notes. Check it out.
Awesome. Okay, and what have we been up to? Well, I spent the weekend recovering from a migraine from hell and a cold or some 24-hour, 48-hour bug that just laid me out. In spite of that, still looking for that next great role. Hire Stu, I always say that. And just doing some other independent little projects for some businesses around town and with my backup consulting business and that. So yeah, it's been good. Other than that, not much. What about you, Derek?
Well, I party hardied last Friday night at Fireside, so I spent the last week recovering with my voice. My voice sounded terrible up until Friday or Saturday this past weekend. I also got a cold, maybe from sleeping out in 5 degrees, 6 degree weather, but like I said, well worth it. My brand new on sale sleeping bag worked very well. We're going to work with Jameson to cycle him in as a regular co-host again.
Yes.
He's eager. He's an eager beaver trying to get back in here, and I said that's totally fine. So what you will likely see is a rotation like Jameson plus Stewart, Jameson plus Derek, Stewart plus Derek, Stewart plus Jameson, or Derek plus Jameson, and going around and around again. So you'll stop hearing from me every 2 weeks, and you'll stop hearing from Stewart every 2 weeks. And I've got a greater plurality of opinions on the show because we all know Jameson has nothing to say.
No, quiet guy. Doesn't say much at all. Not much controversy he creates. Not at all.
Generally just working hard at Olio. Brought in a few new clients lately, which has been going great. A really cool startup out of New Brunswick that's making a really cool recruiting platform that has a chat bot and fun stuff like that, and a company who is going to revolutionize the way you think about refueling your vehicle, and I'm working on some other ones. So yeah, things are going well at Olio. And of course on my counselor duties, I've got a meeting on Wednesday that includes a public meetings or planning meetings at 7, so I'll be there late. So come on out to the show and watch me vote on stuff.
That is the hot ticket, I'm sure.
I vote nay, good sir. No.
And then the tomatoes fly.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, dear. All right. That's a good spot to end, I think, because we really can't go much further lower.
And this has been a long episode because we did recaps and Apple iPhone 10 and iPhone 8 and 8 Plus and Apple TV 4K and all that other fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So don't forget to review us on iTunes, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM. We're even now on iHeart.com wherever else wherever else you get your podcasts. Please retweet us when we talk about new episodes on Twitter. Share them on Facebook. We even have a group. Or even go old school, like I said, and tell a friend. Or if you have any comments, suggestions, whatever, send us an email to contact@canadiantechpodcast.ca to let us know what you think. So, for episode 132, for Monday, September 18th, 2017, my name is Stuart Clark.
My name is Derek Glenlivet Silva.
Thank you, and be well.